Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me. The first Saturday of October is National Card Making Day. That got me thinking. I wanted to play on my embroidery machine, but I also wanted to celebrate National Card Making Day. So I embroidered on cards. Yes, I embroidered on cardstock. You can use your embroidery machine and embroider right on cardstock. Or you can embroider on fabric and apply it to cardstock. So on this one, I embroidered right on the cardstock. I actually appliqued a piece of fabric on top of the cardstock, and then the writing and the skeleton are through both layers, done on my embroidery machine right back there. On this one, I just embroidered the design on fabric and then applied that to my cardstock base. This is the one we're going to make in the video. Both work fabulously. I will say if you're going to embroider right on cardstock without fabric, just make sure your design's not overly dense because it will end up perforating your paper if you have a really dense designs. But it is totally doable to embroider on cardstock, and it's another fun way that you can utilize your embroidery machine that you might not have thought of otherwise. So you guys know I like to try to do things that maybe are out of the box a little bit. So we're going to get started creating this project on the Ricoma machine back here. I'll have everything that I use that I can find linked in the description below. I will tell you this fabric, this orange fabric, was from the Walmart Fat Quarter Halloween series last year. I had some up in my stash, and this one was from another Halloween collection from, I believe, last year. But super easy, a lot of fun, and you know, they don't have to be Halloween cards. You can do a embroidery card for any occasion. So let's get started. I'm gonna return the, or set the cameras up with the Ricoma, and we're going to make this card. Let's get started. The first thing we need to do when we start any project is make sure our machine's in the unlock position. So if you look at this lower left right here, the little lock shows that it's open. That means it's unlocked. So we're ready to import our file. My design is on my flash drive. The Ricoma reads designs off the machine, so I need to get it off the flash drive and onto the machine. So in order to do that, I'm just going to go to File. I'm going to click on the flash drive, so it's telling me what's on my flash drive. This is my design that I want to do right here. You can double check it, it'll show it in the screen. And yes, that's the one I want, so I need to take it from here and put it into the machine. So I'm just going to click the machine. It's transferring it into the machine. Now I can go to the machine, and it's usually on the very last page. The last design that was imported is right there. And I'm just going to click OK. Perfect. So we notice it's not centered. That's going to correct itself in just a moment. The next thing we're going to do is go to Design. And this is where we're going to tell the machine which hoop we're going to be using so that it can center itself up. So we are going to go to the one that looks like a hoop right here. And I'm going to be using my B hoop. And we're going to click OK. And it's going to center itself. And you can see my design is fitting inside the hoop. So if I wanted to rotate it or anything, I can use these other keys and rotate it or duplicate it. We're not going to mess with it. It's exactly the way I want. So we're just going to hit OK and then Escape. All right, next thing we need to do is check out our color scheme. So the one thing I love about the Chroma software, I love a lot of things about the Chroma software, but something that I really like is the way that it prints out their cheat sheet. So it will print out the design. So this tells me exactly how big the design is, so I can check that with my project. But it's also going to show me the color sequence that this is going to print out. So I went ahead in Chroma and set up the colors exactly the way I want them, so I can just follow this guide. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to Colors, and I know the very first step is ivory or white, so I'm going to go to number, this is the first key. I'm going to look to see which thread is white, so it's 1, 2, 3. Number 3 is white. The next step is my gray, so that's 1, 2, number 2. So I hit number 2. My next step needs to be orange, and my orange is in slot number 8. So we're going to put 8. The next one is the purple, and I have purple in number 10. The next one is yellow. I have that in number 5. The next one is my green, and that is in number 6. And the last one is the black, which is in number 1. Now, just to double check, I'm going to hit one more time and make sure if you have all your colors selected, it won't go further. So you can see no matter how many times I hit it, it's not advancing. So I've got all of my colors selected, so I'm going to hit OK. So now I'm going to zoom you out. So here is my hoop. This is hoop B, and I have already hooped a piece of fabric. This is just quilting cotton with a piece of cutaway stabilizer. You could use tearaway for this. I'm going to use cutaway because I want it to be able to adhere to a card. So I've got the cutaway, I've got my cotton fabric, and all I need to do is insert this into the hoop. There is a little U shape right here that goes on the right side. You're going to slip it right under that clip. And just slide it into place. There's little holes right here and right here. They will click into place and snap right on those little divots. So once we have that done, I need to center my design. So the first thing I'm going to do, I notice it's on needle number 8. If you look here, we always center with needle number 1. So I'm going to hit that key and I'm going to hit number 1. And that's going to tell the machine I want you to start with number 1. I'm going to hit escape. And now I'm going to trace my design, and this is going to tell me if it's going to fit in this hoop without hitting the edges. I mean, it clearly looks like it's going to hit, but because these presser feet have a little loop, you want to make sure that it's going to fit in there without hitting the side of the frame. So we're going to trace it. We're going to use this button first, and it's going to tell me that I need to enter embroidery status. I'm just going to hit OK. That's going to automatically lock it. I could have just hit lock. So I'm just looking, and it clearly fits without touching the side of the frame. So I am going to speed this up. I'm going to start at about 750 stitches per minute. Once I see everything's going okay, I'm going to raise it up, and you can go up to 1,000 stitches per minute. So let's get this started and see how it looks. So here is the finished product. Now I know it looks a little bit funny, but that's actually a polka dot from the fabric that has distorted those a little bit, but I don't mind it. It's still super cute. So what I did was take a piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So this was just a piece of cardstock, and I just cut it in half, fold it in half, and that's my card base. The next thing I did was take another piece of cardstock and I cut it to 5.5 by 4.25, and we're just going to adhere that down on front of the cardstock. I'm just using a tape runner. You could use a glue stick, glue gun, whatever you have. It's up to you. This is your card. And I'm just going to line that up right on top. Just like so. And then I cut another piece just slightly smaller at 5.25 by 4. And that's going to set right up here. And I actually think I'm going to use a little bit of foam tape for the back of that one. So this is just a roll of foam tape. I've actually picked this up at Big Lots, I believe, a long time ago. I have a ton of these. But you can get foam tape just about anywhere. A dollar store has them. So I'm just going to generously put that on the back and peel off the sticky adhesive. Again, you could just use a glue gun, a glue stick, liquid glue, whatever you want. I just like this because it pops it up off the card and gives it a little bit of dimension. So now we've got our card base. This one I just popped up the top layer. So for this layer, we want to cut this down to fit on top. Now, because we have this cutaway on the back, that's going to give our adhesive something to stick to. So what I'm going to do is turn this over, and I want to cut this down to 5 by 3.75, so 5 inches wide. So I'm just kind of centering it here in my ruler. I'm using the top of the No Tricks to make sure it's straight. And I've got about, just kind of eyeballing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I want it to be 5 inches. I've got this much play. That looks good to me. And I've got the 1/2 inch marks lined up right on that black edge so that I know it's straight. I'm going to take my rotary cutter and I'm just going to cut that part off. I'm going to swing it around and I'll line that up with my 5 inch mark. Again, keeping the line straight with the No Tricks, and I'm going to cut that off. Okay, now I need 3.75 inches for the width. So 3.75 is going to be about right here. So I'm just going to, again, eyeball it, kind of center it. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is a Halloween card. So I'm going to cut off that top edge. Turn it around, and now I'm going to put that at the 3.75. 3.75 will be right there. So it's going to be a little bit top heavy, but that's fine. All right, so now we have the front of our card panel, so we can put that right there. Now, the thing that we have is that this cutaway is not attached to the fabric around the top. I could have done like a decorative satin border, but I didn't. So what I'm going to do is pull this fabric away from the very edge just a little bit and cut that cutaway off. And the same thing on the bottom. Just pull that up a little bit. Using my ruler to hold it down, and I'm just gonna cut that edge off a little bit, get rid of some of that excess bulk, hold this down, and hold this down. Okay, so now what we're going to do is put the foam tape again on the back of this. This time I want to make sure that I get where that fabric meets. I'm going to be a little more careful this time. And you could actually take this over to the sewing machine and stitch it to your card base. You could stitch it to just the card front if you wanted. Whatever you want to do. This is just a fun way to make a card using your embroidery machine. Now on this one, I actually put fabric on top of cardstock and used that method, and that worked really well. You can stitch right on your cardstock. You just need to be very careful with what designs you're choosing, because anything that's dense will actually make a hole in your cardstock. So I wasn't quite sure if those letters were too dense to put a hole in the cardstock, so I didn't go directly on the cardstock. I did put fabric over the top of it. And this one, I knew that where it says No Tricks was going to be pretty dense. All right, I'm gonna put one more piece of foam tape right here in the middle. And again, this doesn't have to be pretty on the back side. Nobody's gonna see this. Perfect. Rid of that. And we're just gonna put this right on top. And it will fray. And I encourage it to fray. I like that raw edge look. So I'm gonna actually just pull some off. I'm just gonna grab a straight pin and encourage a couple more frays to come off the edge. I just think it makes it look really cool.